This is Andrea Wells with the Insurance Journal on day 2 at Risk World in Chicago. You know, we've talked a little bit about the differences, what's driving this legal abuse in the system today and its impacts on the industry. Maybe you can share that. And if you have any recommendations on how to mitigate this trend or solutions that you're advocating today.
Yeah, absolutely. So we stood up my team, and we're called Claims, Judicial, and Legislative Affairs about 4 years ago to really act as a social inflation task force. So to really understand what exactly was driving it. We knew we were seeing this in the numbers, and our customers were certainly concerned when they saw larger and larger what we call nuclear verdicts in excess of $10 million. Seeing more and more of those was certainly a concern. So me and my team did dive into this to be like, what really is driving this? So as I mentioned before, probably the first thing, and we divide this into essentially 4 different buckets, is just the jury demographics, the changes we've seen over the years in the way the juries look at their role, the way they look at these types of cases. And as I said before, the anti-corporate bias. Another bucket was around plaintiff tactics. The plaintiffs' bar in this country is well organized, they're very well funded, and they're very good at sharing information. So if there's a tactic that works, traditionally there was one called the reptile theory, which in essence creates a sense of fear or anger in the jury to really get them to award a larger amount. We've seen anchoring, so suggesting very large values for the case and getting the jury to be thinking and comfortable with those larger numbers, as well as the advertising we've seen. And I would say that's probably been the most prolific over the last several years, and a very distinct strategy behind the advertising. So talking about specific numbers, letting prospective jurors and prospective plaintiffs know or think that that's what these cases go for. So the advertising is another plaintiff tactics, and we include that in that bucket. And then the last 2 are really litigation funding. So third-party litigation funding has grown exponentially over the years. So these are private companies, usually backed by hedge funds, other investors looking to essentially invest in litigation. So they'll provide non-recourse loans to the plaintiffs in exchange for either some percentage or a very large interest rate at the end if they settle or if the case goes to trial. And then the 4th bucket is just the litigation environment we find ourselves in, eroding tort reform that we've seen over the years, and laws that have been designed to expand liability for defendants. There's other issues as well, but basically those are the 4 main drivers that we've seen.
Okay, great.
And in terms of mitigation, I can jump right into that. Sure. I mean, each one of those buckets, I would say, has a slightly different bit of mitigation. The first 2 I can maybe put together, and that is around just the changing juror demographics and the plaintiff tactics. So part of our role is to educate and train. So we work with our claims professionals, making sure they understand what these drivers are and what they can do for it. We work with our customers and our broker partners quite a bit on these as well. Early investigation, quick notice when there is a loss so that we can jump in and investigate properly. We want to make sure that we've preserved all the applicable evidence that's out there. Sometimes if you don't do that, there could be a problem down the road when you actually have to litigate a case if you haven't preserved the evidence properly. So, working with our customers as an example to make sure that they've done that properly. And really a lot of training with our defense attorneys as well. A lot of this are, as we say, litigation tactics. So it's happening in the courtroom. So our defense attorneys need to understand, and again, to give you an example, how to tell the defense story. Traditionally, defense attorneys would sort of pick apart the plaintiff's case, which is fine, but they also need to tell a story. What's the story that the defense is proposing here? Juries want to hear that. So we work with our defense attorneys to make sure that they're doing that they're making the complex simple so the jury can understand, where we're coming from and what this case is really about. So a lot of education and training for those first 2 drivers. For the second 2 drivers, what we did was about 4 years ago, we kickstarted an industry-wide coalition. And when I say industry, I mean, other carriers, of course, the broker community, our customers as well, really designed to prioritize the various tort reform issues that we see out there. So which jurisdictions, which issues we need to focus on. I would say most of these companies were sort of doing their own thing before then. Sometimes it aligned, sometimes it didn't. But by having this coalition, we can share information with each other much better and help set those priorities.
Sure.
And we've had some good successes over the years, I would say, and there's some really good momentum, not only on the third-party litigation funding front. When we started, there were maybe 2 or 3 jurisdictions that require disclosure, as an example. Now, we're above 15 or 16. So there's good momentum getting some regulation around third-party litigation funding. And in the tort reform angle, of course, Florida 2 years ago passed really historic tort reform, and really seeing some good objective numbers out of what the governor and the legislature in Florida wanted to do. Rates coming, either staying flat or coming down, more P&C companies coming into the market in Florida, Citizens, their insurer of last resort, seeing their policies come down. So all of the things that the governor and the legislator sought to do with tort reform are actually happening. So it's a great success story. And now recently, 2 weeks ago, Governor Kemp in Georgia just passed also very historic, comprehensive tort reform. I think taking the lead from Florida and seeing some of the benefit there. So we do see a lot of momentum building. We work with trade associations or other carriers, a lot of local trade associations as well, kind of our boots on the ground, just to educate the legislators, know them. What we're trying to do is really just level the playing field out there when it comes to personal injury litigation.
The InsurTech Summit 2025, presented by Carrier Management. Join industry leaders as we explore overcoming legacy systems, integrating artificial intelligence, legal pitfalls, and insurer-insurtech collaboration. Hosted by Elizabeth Blossfield, Deputy Editor of Carrier Management, Andrea Wells, Vice President of Content at Insurance Journal, and Alan Lehman, Content Editor of Carrier Management. Plus, don't miss our virtual trivia competition with prizes totaling $2,199. A special thank you to our key sponsor, Snowflake.
The Risky Future Summit 2025. Don't miss out. Click the link in the description to sign up or apply to be a speaker for our Risky Future Summit 2025 before seats fill up.